Hello and welcome to goalnews.org Video Edition, July 9th, 2010. My name's Jim Wallace, Executive Director of Gun Owners Action League. Let's get right to the news. Well, big in the news still in Massachusetts is House 4102, the Governor's Lawful Citizens Imprisonment Act, is making a big push up on the State House. It's actually in House Ways and Means, and both the Governor and the Speaker of the House are making a huge push to get this bill to the House floor for a vote. Perhaps the breaking news in this, which the media has ignored, is apparently the governor has changed his position on profiling. It now supports profiling certain individuals. Certainly in this case, the governor is profiling lawful citizens who choose to exercise their civil rights to keep and bear arms, and automatically considers us suspect. Well, that is unacceptable in the state of Massachusetts for any reason. But again, the media should pay attention to this because it's a drastic change in the governor's stance on profiling. Let's kind of go through real quickly what House 4102, just so you know why you're calling the state legislature and asking them to oppose this bill. Of course, the first thing it does is imprison lawful citizens for purchasing more than one firearm in a 30-day period. It also imprisons the licensed dealer who's involved in the lawful transaction. Now, this gets a little bit more complicated because the bill also changes the definition of handgun in Massachusetts, which, as we know, is actually termed firearm in the state of Massachusetts. But it actually changes the definition of handgun, which will mean any parts that which will or is designed to or may readily be converted to becoming a working firearm. Very complicated language. Basically, what it means is that this law would include any part of a handgun. So if you had to buy a replacement slide, a barrel, a spring, a frame, anything like that for a handgun, that would count as your one purchase in the 30-day period. It also gets to the point where if you have a firearm or a rifle or shotgun that has a high-capacity magazine, which, as we know, for a rifle or a handgun means more than 10 rounds in Massachusetts, a shotgun's more than 5 rounds, you can only buy the gun, and then the next month you would have to go back and buy the magazine that went with the gun. So it's a very complicated bill. It's not just as cut and dry as people might think. It also eliminates private transfers, currently limited to 4 in a calendar year in the state of Massachusetts. But even though licensed gun owners can transfer 4 firearms in a calendar year, we still have to submit an FA-10 form within 7 days. Bans the instruction and firing of machine guns by adults. This is way overboard. Matter of fact, Gun Owners Action League's bill, House 2259, the Civil Rights and Public Safety Act, addresses this and says you have to be 18 years old to fire a machine gun, but you can be under the instruction of the person licensed for that gun, which is a much more reasonable approach to this situation. The House 4102 also changes the protections in the public record laws. Currently, under the public record laws, the names and addresses of licensed gun owners are private. They are not open to the public. This bill would change that to some extent in where those records would be open to licensed gun dealers to gather, apparently, information about the one gun a month provision of the bill. It also attempts to address or amend the dangerous statute once again. We've been down this road many times already. The House has already taken this provision up and correctly changed what the Senate did incorrectly several months ago. It also provides, and this is a very complicated terminology, a 10-year prison sentence. Now, what it would do is provide a 10-year prison sentence for the possession of a gun while in the commission or attempted commission of a misdemeanor which there was the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force. Very complicated piece of law they're trying to push through here, but very also loose, because if you happen to be, say, in a traffic incident where you happen to have a firearm on you or locked in your car, you can see where things might get carried away here. We understand what they're trying to do is prevent people, hardcore criminals, from intimidating witnesses and so forth, but they have to really tighten up this kind of language so that we don't want lawful gun owners caught in certain situations facing a 10-year prison sentence. It also allows the state police to destroy confiscated or surrendered firearms in certain circumstances. There may be a need to do this at some point, but the state really needs to take a hard look at the surrender programs and the confiscation programs here in Massachusetts, because many times people are charged with crimes that are found innocent and later on find out that their firearms have been destroyed or the storage fees are so astronomical it's not worth getting their property back. Those need to be addressed before we do anything else in these kind of laws. Also changes the laws regarding the National Instant Check System and the reporting requirements for that system at the federal and state level. We have relied on national organizations like the NRA to really take a close look at this because they're the experts in this, and they see the language in the governor's proposal as way overboard. So we need to make sure that the House correctly addresses that before they make any moves on that part of the bill at all. Also, I wanted to let you know some of the current laws that are in place because the governor is continually going on the air saying there are no tools to deal with the flow of illegal firearms in Massachusetts. Well, here's just a few. Chapter 140, Section 128B, which basically says if you do not report a sale or transfer within 7 days, you can actually receive up to 10 years in state prison. Chapter 140, Section 131, capital E. That's our straw purchasing law here in Massachusetts. It already exists. If you as a licensed gun owner buy a firearm of any kind for somebody who's not eligible to own that firearm here in Massachusetts, again, another potential 10-year prison sentence. And here's the big one as far as multiple unlawful transfers, purchases, what have you. There's actually a graduated scale in this law, but it's Chapter 269, Section 10, capital E, unlawful multiple transfers. And penalties here range anywhere from 10 years in prison to life in prison. So any kind of argument to say that there is no tools here in Massachusetts within our laws to deal with the illegal flow of guns simply is a flat-out lie. If they're not using these laws, if they're not using the current tools, then what is this argument all about? Well, currently this bill is in House Ways and Means Committee, and we would urge everyone to contact that committee and urge them to oppose House 4102. And there's a couple ways you can get a hold of them. You can call the committee at 617-722-2380. You can go on the State House website, mass.gov/legis/com/h34.htm, and you can find that on the regular State House website. Or here in the Gun Owners Action League, we've actually set up a page with all the members of the House Ways and Means Committee and ways you can get a hold of them at gold.org. Go to waysandmeanscommittee.html. Urge everyone to immediately act on this because I believe the committee is polling its members now or early next week, and they will probably try to pull this bill out to the House floor for a vote soon. Remember, the legislative session ends July 31st, so they only have a few weeks to probably act on the governor's bill, and we urge everybody once again to contact the House Ways and Means Committee and ask them to oppose House 4102 in whole. Remember, we don't want any part of this bill passing in Massachusetts. The right to keep and bear arms is a civil right, and Massachusetts has to start acting like it. Again, if they looked at our bill, House 2259, the Civil Rights and Public Safety Act, they would have much better tools to deal with both. Well, that's it for goldnews.org, video edition, July 9th, 2010. We'll see you next week.